Hey guys, Mineral here with another quick breakdown. For this video, I wanted to focus on the match between the Vancouver Titans and the Washington Justice. Now, this was one of the biggest upsets of Week 2 Stage 4, with the Justice sweeping the Stage 1 champs 4-0. The map I really want to focus on is going to be Volskaya, but here's a quick refresher of the other maps in the set, just so we have a little bit of context. Initially, the Justice took Ilios 2-0, leaning on the quote-unquote New Goats composition, which, if you missed my previous video, refers to the May, Reaper, Moira, Lucio, Diva, and Orisa composition. The Titans were very slow to adjust as their poke composition was easily shut down on Lighthouse, and their slower Orisa composition was completely outtempoed on Ruins, after which Vancouver finally chose to mirror their opponents, but were dealing with a crippled ult economy after losing the initial fight, and as a result they never managed to actually retake. On Hollywood, Titans actually opted into the New Goats, but Washington DPS Corey was exceptionally hot, setting all kinds of records on Hanzo en route to an MVP-esque performance. Now, the fourth map, Havana, not really worthy of too much attention. The Titans seemed pretty mentally boomed, the set was already over, and the Titans didn't get past first point. Now, there are a couple of reasons why I wanted to take a closer look at Volskaya. First of all, this is the map where the Justice firmly captured all the momentum and a firm chokehold on the set. Secondly, it was a map that displayed some nifty strategies and overall cleaner ultimate usage by the Justice, and really just an overall better understanding of this current meta. So let's dig in. Alright, so we'll take this kind of fight by fight. So first fight, attack, the Justice. If we just take a look at the compositions, the Justice do have superior shield break. They have the Zen and Batiste pairing along with the Hanzo, whereas the Titans have a Hureg on the Widow. Naturally, on defense, you're going to have a lot of advantages, but really, you are going to be losing the shield war most of the time with this composition. So you really need to get a lot of value out of the Widow here, and it's going to be up to Corey to kind of mark the most popular spots that Hureg wants to play, and kind of just have to shove him out of position and hope he doesn't get picked. So let's take a look at how the first fight looks. So clearly, Corey, being a veteran of Widowmaker, he understands the most popular spots that the Widow wants to play. And another important thing to note here is that the fact that Corey, being one of the best Widows in the league, still doesn't play Widow on this map probably suggests that this composition just might be a little more solid, the one with the Hanzo. And also his Hanzo is exceptionally good as well, one of the best in the league. But you can see here, Corey clearly knows that this is where Hureg is going to peak. Right, he puts the walls there, and as long as you can shove Hureg out of this position, shoot at him a couple of times, maybe hit him once, get him back behind the shield, you're already gonna be dealing with such a huge advantage here if you're the Justice. But credit to Hureg, pixel perfect shot. Corey peaks just outside the shield. If this doesn't happen, you might see the Justice actually just win the first fight because of this great awareness by Corey. But now it puts the Justice in a bit of a weird spot. I mean, they do exchange a couple of pull hooks here. Nothing really lands for either team. Hureg is covering the exit here as well. You know, the Justice fall back and kind of shove him back. It's interesting that they continue to try and exchange pull hooks here. I mean, if you see Corey's still not there, but the Justice are looking for pull hooks, and this is extremely risky. You see, like, they're using a lot of resources here. They're not getting much done. And it's going to be very difficult to ever land a pull hook in this type of a situation. So a little risky to go for these before Corey's back, but now eventually Corey does come back. No one else has got him picked, and Hureg has rotated over to this position now. And this is where the first interesting play kind of shows its face in this map, where the Justice do something that you haven't really seen other teams do here, which is, as you can see, they line up, and everyone gets boosted up now. Unfortunately, Gido misses the boost. Ideally, you want him up there as well, I do believe. But you can see how this completely surprises Hureg, because there's no way Hureg would be here if he knew that this was coming, right? Or if he even knew that this was a possibility. Because ideally, with the Widowmaker, what you want to do is you want to off-angle a little bit. So if the Justice are pathing this way, and they're trying to take the shield war like this, the angle you're probably going to be taking is something like this, right? You're going to be shooting from the side so that the Justice's shield is rendered kind of useless. On the flip side, if the Justice go to the other side, you have the option to go here. You have a lot of cover. You have a mini pack. You have the high ground to go up to. There's a lot of angles you can take. So really, this is kind of the safe haven for the Widowmaker, right? And Hurig obviously wants to be a little bit greedy. The Justice are hiding, so he feels like he's a liberty to take this risk, but really he isn't. And he immediately gets surprised, and you can see he immediately starts backtracking, but he gets picked off by Stratus. Great snipe by Stratus here. Has been exceptional on the maze so far. Also, Pull Hook comes out, gets blocked by the wall, so nothing really happens, but really nice nifty play by the Justice. You can see that the Titans aren't expecting this. It puts Twilight in a weird spot where he kind of has to be careful. He has to be aware of the Pull Hook. He has to be scared of the snipers. So no one's really ready to rotate because the backline really just wants to rotate around the shield, right? Twilight from that position is basically waiting. Okay, is Justice going to show here, or are they going to show here? And I'm going to probably take the other side. Now Gido isn't on the high ground as mentioned. And Corey does get pull hooked. So if Corey doesn't get pull hooked, this fight is probably over. You've already forced out the immortality field. That's the advantage you have if you're the Justice. You still have yours. Obviously, you can see Ark actually throwing it out in this moment to try and save Corey. But this is kind of on Corey, right? If you pull first, which Justice did, they pulled first, the wall came up and blocked it. You need to understand that the response pull hook is coming, which means that everyone except for Stratus and Janus, who can protect themselves against the pull hook, has to really back off and respect it. But Corey, he was a little too close to the shield, didn't respect it, got pulled, and this kind of shuts down their advantage. Because imagine if this hook doesn't hit, you have the man advantage, you have the immortality field advantage. Now you let them even that out, and you lose your immortality field, which is one of the most important cooldowns in this meta. So a bit sloppy there by Corey. Also asleep here on Gido. And you can see that the Titans don't really know where to go, right? Like the higher ground's been taken away from them. Janu's fallen back here, so you can't really execute any pull hook. Granted, Justice's pull hook misses as well. But you can see Bumper here going for the pull. And Janu is nowhere near ready to follow up on this. So you can see like the Titans are just improvising on the fly here. The wall comes up to block it anyway, but the hook wasn't in range regardless. They move up again. They do use this, and again, if Corey is alive here, the Titans are toast. There's no way they survive this. But because he isn't, because they forced out the wall, the Titans can use their wall to relieve some of the pressure from the amp matrix. The shield is already broken by the Justice, and now they can respond with their own. They also have their immortality field before their opponents, and they just kind of, the two cancel each other out. And as soon as this supercharger goes down, you can't fight on the point anymore. Janus, obviously, at 60% is pretty far away from his, so you know this relieves a lot of pressure. But this also this comes at a cost. Obviously, it allows them to stabilize. It allows Horeg to get back into the fight, but it also means that Janus is going to have his at some point during the future fights. So that's kind of the advantage that Justice are taking into future fights. The fact that they forced out this particular cooldown. Again, another pull hook missing here by Bumper. And Twilight peeking here and hitting the nade is actually low-key very big. Like, he hits 5 people, but the biggest thing is it doesn't matter that he can't convert kills with this. It just means that the Justice can't use their pull hook. So Bumper, 7 seconds on the cooldown. Janus has his, so he wants to use his pull hook. This is the window when there won't be a response on the side of the Titans, but this nade ensures that Bumper gets an extra rotation of a pull hook. It buys Bumper time to get his pull hook up in time as well, because the Justice can't move until this is dealt with. So nice little play by Twilight here. Now, I'm not sure about this wall. It seems like the Justice, maybe they were thinking about clearing out the high ground, as we're lagging here a little bit, I believe. Okay. But either way, nice counter wall, blocks off the Justice's pathing. Pull by Bumper misses. So pull hook misses now. Let's see, does Janus have his? Yeah, Janus has his pull. So now you have to be very afraid of the pull hook. As you can see, immediately the Titans good spacing here. They space out. Slime falls back. Janu falls back. No one's playing close to Bumper. So hard to land a pull hook here. You can see it does land on Bumper, but that's never going to convert your kill. So much better spacing here by the Titans than we saw by the Justice when they actually took this high ground. Good immortality field here on the corner, utilizing corners very well here. Arc has been doing a good job with this. Now pull, and the hook finally lands. But this is the thing. So as we're discussing, so the Zen does have the advantage over the Ana in terms of the shield break. But the advantage that Ana has is that with the Nano Boost, she can also negate a pull hook. So here, Janu got hooked, immediately gets nanoed, so you can't convert that kill. Another thing is that the Zen ultimate is really quite useless with these compositions, especially when there's an Ana on the other side and you're not playing a Diva. So even though this trance comes out, which granted it is a little bit early as well, you still have your immortality field. There's no need to use it this early. But it's very easy to cancel with just the nade, right? The nade lands, immortality field goes down, and the trance is useless. You can kill through this. And this is something we actually, the Mayhem, when I was still with the team, we utilized the May quite a lot, actually, in stage 1 with the May Sombra composition. And that was kind of a very common combo. You lay down the Blizzard, you wait for everyone to freeze, you wait out the Diva Matrix, and then you throw in a nade towards the end of the Blizzard, and you just convert a kill or two for free, while also getting the chance out, right? So, good execution there. It did cost Huxtall his Blizzard, though. Wallhack comes out, doesn't really net anything. And now this is the advantage that the Justice are kind of cashing in. You can see Janos and Arc are both coming up on their shield break ultimates. Now, Bumper has almost farmed a new one, but this is something that the Titans have to understand. They have to track these ultimates, and they have to understand that when you combo the Supercharger and Arc's ultimate, you're pretty much just going to evaporate on the point. So you can't overcommit to this. You pretty much have to play a very defensive fight here, and you have to start trading ultimates. But if we look at this, both of them come down at the same time. Huge overposition here by the Titans. They can never make it back to the next corner now. So the tanks pretty much have to hide inside, and then they're just gonna die. Corey can funnel them out of there with his ultimate as well. You can see how quickly Bumper dies. Like, this was played in slow motion, and how quickly he just evaporated. So, Titans not respecting the damage amplification combo, and they just kind of die out. But ultimately, good understanding by the Justice. Like, this is how you actually can get a ton of value. You take this high ground, you have... And another thing that is very important to know, we can actually play it back a little bit here. So what them taking the high ground does as well is it forces Hureg out of his comfort spot, right? As we talked about, these are the angles you want to take as the Widow. But as soon as the Justice opt to take this high ground here, puts Hureg in this type of an angle, difficult to really get much done here. Obviously, you can take this angle, obviously, you can rotate and take this, but it's not nearly as oppressive as when he gets to play on this side of the map. So beyond them just kind of getting slaughtered on the point, Hureg is also kind of rendered a non-factor. He was just trying to figure out where to go, and he didn't really bring much in this fight either. So good little note as well, and nice rotation by the Justice. Now, they don't really have much going into the next fight. They don't have a Supercharger. You're probably just going to look to build up your ultimates, try and force out Titan ults. And what happens is that Hureg gets a pick on Gido. And in this meta, it's actually really brutal when you get picked off like this on 2 CP, simply because 1, you don't have speed boost, 2, you're not playing a Mercy, so you can't res these picks, so you bleed a ton of time when these things happen. Like, as you can see, Corey on the side marking Hureg. But the good thing is that the Justice don't give up map control or high ground, so they can still pivot up here. And as we'll see on the when we switch sides, we'll see exactly why this is crucial, that Justice maintain control here. So they do lose kind of half a minute, but no more than that. And now you're pushing into the Titans who have a ton of ultimates. But this is where the next kind of creative play, I think, on the side of the Justice comes. They use their wall as a bridge to cross. Now, what does this accomplish? Once again, you can see that it does seem the Titans are a little bit surprised by this. But as soon as the Justice take this space here, it completely, again, you lose the high ground. You know that if the pull hook doesn't hit, you're in trouble, just like you would have been on the first point. Because now you're forcing the Bumper to play a position here where as soon as the shield breaks, what is the next corner that he's falling back to? It's either this or this. And once you've lost that corner and you're waiting for your shield, and there's already point pressure from the Justice, good luck when you're discorded against that shield break composition, especially with Arc coming up on his supercharger here. Good luck making this space back. That's why you see a lot of Orisas holding this side, right? Their shield breaks, they hide here, and then they can re-peek. On this side, you don't have that luxury because the sidelines are too low. So unless you hit a pull hook here, you've pretty much already lost the fight. Pull comes out. Hook comes out. Nice shield by Janus to block it. And now the fight is over. You put down Amplification Matrix. I like the fact that Stratus goes on to point to put pressure on his own. But you can see, Bumper's falling back. He has no corner to play behind. Twilight and Janus, they can't play here either, right? They have to make a rotation. So just by taking this high ground, and obviously the Titans not having any presence here to prevent this, you haven't killed these guys, but you've essentially taken them out of the fight for a couple of seconds, all while your front line is never going to be able to make that space back, so the rest of the team kind of has to flank. Hureg, obviously a complete non-factor because of this as well. You know, he was obviously playing his angles over here, but as soon as you lose control here, you have to rotate. So just like on the first point, you're neutralizing the Widow very, very well here if you're the Justice. And if we look at Bumper here, throws down his supercharger, but immediately evaporates, just like we talked about. And now you're under so much pressure here if you are the Titans, because you have no one who can put pressure on the point. Again, the two guys on the side, Twilight and Jan, were completely zoned out. It's going to be up to Hoxel to essentially go on the point and buy time with this ultimate and his ice block. But again, you're dealing with these sightlines, and you're dealing with Corey, and you're dealing with the amplification matrix. And even if Hoxel doesn't die here, let's imagine he gets onto the point with his ice block and throws down his ultimate. The only people on the point are Janus and Stratus, who both have abilities to deal with the blizzard, and it's never going to net them a kill. All while those guys are still out of the fight. And you can see Sansam actually putting a little more pressure on these guys to keep zoning them out of the fight. So you can see how the Titans have no idea how to deal with this kind of a rotation. They were definitely not ready for it. They didn't know what to do. They immediately went on autopilot, and the Justice punished them very, very well. Even though they were pushing into the Titans, who had 5 ultimates to start the fight. Okay, so switching sides. We have the Titans going for the shield break supports with the Zen and the Batiste, but they're still playing the Widow, and again, like I said, gonna be difficult for you to get these great angles. You can see a lot of teams really just playing Hanzo instead on a lot of these maps because of the shield break, because of his ultimate. His ultimate with the pull hook is a terrific way to win fights, or at least force out ultimates. And Corey, one of the best Widows, isn't playing the Widow here either. So maybe a little bit of a slow adaptation to the meta by the Titans. Pull hook, initial pull hook gets blocked. Wall comes out here basically to just allow Janus to backtrack. Nice little sleep on the Hog. And you'll see Gido doing this consistently. Pull comes out, hook is too far, wall comes off anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And we're going for our second pull hook rotation. You can see Hureg out there in main. Does get this angle for a brief moment, but the supports are doing well to dodge this. So basically, Hureg, to be effective in this fight and to get another angle, he kind of has to go here, right? Like this is how he can get to the backline and actually get one-shots again. And for him to do that, I mean, it's going to be a pretty long path. And while he's doing that, Corey's going to be able to do a lot more here. So another pull hook comes out by the Justice. Hook gets blocked, but Jana gets slept. And this is interesting because when Janu slept, when Bumper goes for a response pull, you can never respond with a pull hook. And if you can't respond with a hook, then you don't have to use as many resources by the Justice to actually block it. So again, nice sleeps on the hog here, on the pulls. Even though you don't convert kills, you make sure that even when you're pulling first, there's not going to be a response by the Titans, at least not a viable response. So you can see who right now is making the rotation, but he's kind of ineffective for now. And another thing is that Corey, he can control this area. No one can get to him except for the Maeve she can boost up, or the Batiste. So he can also control this and take a closer off angle here, pressure a lot more. Whereas Hureg finally does get that angle. But as soon as the Justice are aware of it, now they know he's taking his shot. Even though Sansom dies here, the supports are positioning themselves pretty well. It still makes the fight awkward. It still puts a lot of pressure on you. And Sansom obviously dies, so you are in a bit of trouble here if you're the Justice. But if we look at Arc, he still has his immortality field, whereas the Titans have used it, so it's still kind of a trump card that you can potentially utilize. Corey is also flanking here to basically relieve pressure. So he shoots Twilight, and let's just take a look at how the Titans respond to this. Again, immortality field buys a lot of time for Janice to kind of just survive this onslaught here. Corey keeps putting pressure on them. And now Hoxel is using his cooldowns to get to Corey, right? Like if you're the Mei, you don't want to be using your walls to boost up to deal with a Hanzo. But if you don't have a Hanzo yourself, you kind of have to do that. So just by Corey climbing up here and being here relieves so much pressure, because you force Twilight, you force Slime, you force Hoxel to deal with you. And it's just about relieving pressure. You don't even have to get kills if you're Corey. Twilight, again, still flanking, not being a factor in the fight. So when the window actually comes out, who's there to utilize it? Twilight isn't utilizing the windows, and he has an incredible amount of damage with his Discord, so you're losing a ton of damage there. Hoxel isn't using it. You only have a couple of guys using the amplification matrix. You know, Corey climbs up there again, uses Dragon again, relieves a bit of pressure. Now you can't really regroup. You've essentially split the enemy team. And again, what the Nano does is it protects you from the hooks. So it comes out a bit prematurely here on Stratus. And also you can see Stratus is already a little bit ahead in ult charge. Why is he ahead in ult charge? Because he's been fighting the frontline battle, while Hoxel has been trying to deal with Corey, which again, you're neutralizing Corey, but you're not building ult charge like that. You can see Stratus gets hooked, the Nano protects him, and it just puts him in a position to put out the Blizzard. Again, Hoxel doesn't have his to respond, and you can kind of neutralize this fight. So you can see how Corey just pressuring the high ground, getting obviously more value out of his Dragon than Hureg did out of his walls, just forcing everyone out of position, and just the Titans not being kind of disciplined enough to really win the fight with their amplification matrix. Kind of costs them. But a lot of it is just kind of the sniper choices. And now Hureg does go to the Hanzo right now, but Corey, the Madman, has already farmed up a new Dragon. So even though you are dealing with a lot of ultimates, obviously the biggest fight-winning ultimate being the Blizzard, you still have a lot of tools to kind of deal with that if you're the Justice, right? Like you have your, well, I mean, you don't have a ton of terrific tools, but you still have potential shield break potential with Janus's ultimate. And also you have to understand that even though Twilight has his ultimate here, like we saw in the previous attack, not really a great ultimate with these compositions. You're going to use it, Gido's going to throw in a nade, it's going to be neutralized. So not a very useful ultimate, but ultimately the trump card that the Titans have here is the Blizzard. So let's see if they can actually get it off. Again, great response here by Janus to immediately counter with his own supercharger. So you've traded supercharger for supercharger. You've also split up pretty well here, but everyone's still in range of the supercharger here. And Janus, he takes cover as soon as his shield breaks, but he also throws in a very, very nice pull here. And again, what happens? Gido sleeps the hog. He sleeps the hog, which means you have to use the immortality field. Arc still has his. Again, huge advantage. It's essentially like an ultimate. And you hit the pull hook and you get the kill. So Gido consistently sleeping Janu on these pull hooks. Very, very good play. And now you've bought enough time. You've won this fight off of a pull hook and supercharger. You've not allowed Hoxel to use his Blizzard, which means Stratus is already coming up on his. So you have the potential for the full hold here. Now, the Titans also make the rotation that the Justice did in the first round. But again, Corey, great heads-up play. Throws out the Dragon here. Forces out the Trance. And forces out the Immortality Field again. Right? Count this as another ultimate, as a 20-second cooldown ultimate. So great heads-up play by Corey here. Now, the issue is, same way that the Titans didn't quite respect the Amp Matrix from this angle, the Justice give it a little more respect. You can see Sansam and everyone kind of falling back, but Janus is over-positioned here. Again, I'd like him to be a little further back so that when the Amp Matrix comes out, you can disengage, you can wait it out, and then you can re-engage with your ultimates potentially. Now, Stratus puts up a wall, and this should buy time for Janus to backtrack and get out of this position. Because even if you break this wall, because of how great this wall is, as you're breaking it, well, this isn't a great angle. You still can't see Janus really. You have to break it down step by step, but Janus doesn't. He doesn't respect it. He stays there and he dies as a result. Also, Arc tries to save him. Again, you remember, you had this advantage with the Immortality Field, but you just died too fast through Amp Matrix, and Arc couldn't save him in time. And he dies as a result as well, because he's jumping up to try and put it in the right place, and you kind of end up losing the fight because of that. So, again, very solid walls by Stratus. His walls are terrific here, just Janus didn't quite respect the Amp Matrix in that particular fight. So heading into this point, let's just make a quick note of the positioning. So, obviously Sansam drops here, but the rest of the team, Janus is holding this side. Again, much safer for him to play around that corner if he loses the shield where he's not zoned out of the fight. Stratus is holding a nice little off angle like he's been doing most of the time. You have a lot more presence here on the high ground for the Justice. Granted, you are using a Hanzo, and the Titans on their defense were using a Widow. So even though the Titans are pushing with a lot of ultimates here, they don't have any shield break ultimates. Bumpers and Slime's ults are not on the table. And even if Haxel wants to use his ultimate here, it's very difficult for him to get value, right? The only guys who are on the ground are the guys who can protect themselves, whereas the other players are on the high ground. Even if you hit a pull hook, there's the Nano to respond. So, and the Justice obviously have their own Blizzard to respond to this. So a difficult fight here, projecting for the Justice. Good dodge on the hook here by Corey. Janus again makes a mistake over shielding here. So if your enemies have that angle, as you can see, they've already taken this angle, you can't be this greedy. You only have to contest the point. So when Janus is recharging shield, he should essentially just shoot out his shield a little earlier and try and contest as small of a corner on the point as possible. But he kind of showed his entire hitbox and then shielded super far up. So just definitely a mistake by Janus here. He should not be dying here, especially if there's no damage amplification on the board for the Justice. Now, Gido again hits a very nice anti-nade here, forces out the Immortality Field. Again, Arc gets to use his second, and this is important because you can see in all of these initial trades, Arc gets to use his Immortality Field second, and it's very crucial. Now, Sansam gets the Nano to kind of slow down the momentum here a little bit. Haxel throws out, but again, like we said, just because the Justice are playing on the high ground, well, this is the best case scenario. You get Sansam and you try and kill him, but he already has the Nano. Arc hasn't used his Immortality Field. Good luck converting this skill, all while Stratus is going to obviously put up a wall to zone them, and he's going to throw in a Blizzard here to counter zone. Right? So everyone's zoned out. No one can really follow up on Sansam, and you have so many tools. The Immortality Field comes out, you have so many tools to save him. Bumper gets traded, and now the fight is over. So, Gido obviously getting a ton of value out of his nades here. And sleeps, you know, Gido hitting sleeps, Gido hitting nades. That's what kind of buys the Justice these free Immortality Field advantages. All right, so remember what we talked about in terms of how important it is to keep control of this area when you're attacking. This is why, because if the defense sets up here, you don't have a DV, you don't have any damage mitigation, you don't have reses. Even though the Titans have a ton of ultimates, their biggest challenge isn't how they're going to use their ultimates, it's to actually get to the point where they're going to be able to use them. Stratus here playing a very nice off angle, but as you'll see, the Titans trying to come in, immediately die. So you either have to path through left side where, you know, you're not going to be exposed to that oppressive angle for as long as you would here. Another thing you can potentially do is maybe start with a wall and then use, like, you have to basically cross the checkpoints, right? And you have to use resources to cross those checkpoints. Something you could also do is potentially learn kind of a set shield that you shoot up in the air, and then maybe it lands somewhere here, and then you have a double shield if you're bumper. But this is, regardless, this is going to be tough to get past. As you can see, again, Hoxel dies. So even though you had a huge ult advantage when you were the Titans, now the Justice have caught up, and they're essentially coming up on 6 ults as well. So the window that you had to kind of close that map there has very quickly evaporated. And you can see how long in this meta it takes to get there. You don't have a Lucio, you don't have, you know, you don't have res. So those 2 picks just bled all the time off the clock, and now you're not quiet, but you're essentially entering one fight territory here because of how many ultimates are on the board. So if you want to win this, you have to win this fight if you're the Titans. Now, let's take a look at how they use their ultimates. So Bumper leads here with his bongos. Janus immediately responds, and so does Arc. So again, this just shows a better understanding kind of what's required in this meta by the Justice. They immediately combo these 2 shield break ultimates, whereas the Slime isn't using his. They're not comboing this, which means naturally the Justice will be winning the early parts of the fight. Right? Bumper can't really do it. Now the Amp Matrix comes up, but now you're already kind of at a health disadvantage. Another thing is that even though Janus is going to be taking damage here, you can actually hide the lamp here. Again, something that Arc has been doing well is hiding these lamps. So there's no way that the Titans can do anything about this. Right? Once this lamp comes up, you cannot kill this from your position. You just have to wait it out and then hopefully get a better lamp yourself, because now Slime does, well, actually he doesn't even have his. So this is actually the biggest mistake. The fact that the Titans are starting this fight without their immortality field. Because there's no immortality field, Hoxel dies, you're losing people left, right, and center, everyone's taking damage. So you have to understand that in this meta, how important the immortality field is, and that you don't even entertain the idea of engaging in this shield war and starting to use ultimates before the immortality field is on the board, because this is the big neutralizer. It's essentially an ultimate. And this dragon, again, never going to get any value because of the immortality field. So, again, another thing the Titans have to understand. If the immortality field is on the board and you can't kill it, wait. You've used 2 ultimates to force out the immortality field, wait it out, then use your a pull dragon, because now you've used, obviously you've already lost Haxel, so you're going to be in bad shape regardless, but you're using a 3rd ultimate that is never going to get any value. You can see this dragon gets nothing. And you force out the immortality field much later here. And you can't really engage in an ult fight anymore. So you have to disengage. Again, you're not giving enough space, but you're waiting for your last guy to come back. Again, with these spawns, it's going to take a while. Just by winning that exchange, the Justice are essentially putting themselves in a position where they, even if they lose this fight, they're going to bleed the clock down to 0. They're going to have an attack on first, and Titans won't. Now, the Titans are coming in with a trance, which is, again, like we discussed, kind of a useless ultimate with these compositions. And the hog ult, so the Titans don't have tools to win this fight, whereas Stratus has a fight-winning ult in Blizzard. Again, you force out the immortality field early, you kill it. If we look at Arc, still has his. So consistently, except for that situation here where the immortality... Arc, in this situation, Arc did put out the immortality field first, but it got killed second, right, in that previous fight. But other than that, you're getting the advantage in the immortality field consistently. You can see much better high ground control here by the Justice, so that the Titans can't make the same play that they did. Much better split and positioning by the two guys who are supposed to relieve point pressure. And you just have to wait here until the Titans come closer and you just win the fight with Blizzard, essentially. Corey also gets a pick on Hureg. And you win the Blizzard. So that's kind of the gist of it. The Titans sloppy ult usage. They didn't really seem to understand the importance of Immortality Field and not wasting it. You can see they were wasting it a ton, or at least getting it forced out a ton. Granted, the Justice do deserve a lot of credit for forcing them out. Gido hitting a lot of sleeps and nades. Arg being very good with his Immortality Field as well, but that's also kind of essentially the team just setting him up to have a better Immortality Field because they're doing the groundwork to force out slimes first. And overall, just Corey obviously doing a ton of work and a lot of nice creative plays by the Justice. Again, I really like that set play when they took over the higher ground here, and it's going to be interesting to see continued innovation with these compositions.